I would like to introduce Rabbi Manis Friedman with a confession. People ask me all the time why or when did I decide that I want to be a rabbi. I was 16, a student of the Chabad Yeshiva Academy in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and one of the out-of-town Chabad houses would invite students from time to time for Shabbat to help with the minyan, to bring some young energy to the crowd. So I was there, Chabad of Cordoba, Rabbi Turk. I was there for many, many times. And the first time I was there, right before the conclusion of the morning services, the rabbi came to me and asked me, "Can I please announce that I will give a class right after the Kiddush, the lunch?" So like most students, we feel we know everything. I said, "Sure." But shortly, I realized that I don't really know what I'm going to talk about, and I started to get really nervous. I took one book, another book, I couldn't put two words together, and then I realized I was the lucky one who, few days before that day, I attended one of Rabbi Manis Friedman's lectures in Chabad of Agüero, the central Chabad house of Buenos Aires. And that lecture was so powerful that, and Rabbi Friedman, I'm very honest, I was 16, I don't know how much did I understand from what he said, but it made such a great positive impact on me that I memorized it almost word for word. And that's what I did. People came, sat down, and I just repeated almost word for word what you said. I should have said that it was your lecture, but I'm mistaken for that. And I paid the price later because I happened to be there many more times and they really had high expectations. But I can tell you that experience, after the class I got so many comments, positive comments, and I really felt the inspiration of people, that I think that was the first experience that I had teaching, and I perceived the beauty of teaching and inspiring others. And I think that was a very important point in my life when I said, I think I would like to be occupied all my life doing this, teaching, inspiring others. So having you here, Rabbi Manis Friedman, is a dream come true. And also, I want to thank you so much for being the cause of this unity between so many Jewish people from around the area. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome Rabbi Manis Friedman.
So it's my fault that you became a rabbi? I'm sorry. When you have a question and you get an answer, sometimes the answer is really satisfying and the question is really resolved. Sometimes not. But when one answer resolves many questions, many issues, many different topics, then you know that this is real, this is true. That has the ring of truth. In fact, Albert Einstein spent his whole life devoted to the idea that there must be one answer to everything, because he was talking about physics. Now, this guy was telling his grandmother that the internet can answer any question. Anything you need to know, just Google it. And the grandmother was skeptical. She said, "No, it can't be." He said, "I'm telling you, anything you need to know, any question you have, just Google it." She said, "Really?" He says, "Yes." She said, "Tell me, how is Aunt Bertha doing?" That's not going to be answered by Einstein's equations. But in physics, he was looking for one principle that explained everything. Because that's the truth. The closer you get to the truth, the more issues get resolved. So let me ask you a few questions. Question number one. What is the secret to Jewish continuity? Everybody's impressed. Everybody admits it's a miracle, it's amazing. Despite all odds, the Jews are still here. Yeah, it's amazing. Mark Twain wrote a very beautiful piece on that. He said, "Other nations came and made a vast noise. And now they're gone, disappeared into the backwaters of history. And the Jew is still here, showing no signs of infirmity," which is a nice way of saying still causing trouble. The Jew is still here, still causing trouble, still young. It's a beautiful observation, but he doesn't offer an answer, an explanation. How is it? Those other nations that made a vast noise, they were richer, they were stronger, they were bigger, more numerous, and they're gone, and we're still here? Well, you can say it's a miracle. Oh, it is. But even a miracle can sometimes have an explanation. What is the explanation? How is it that we are still here? But let's move on to another question. Why is it that human beings, for almost all of history, 5,000 years, have been asking, why are we here? Why are we so uncomfortable? Why can't we settle down? It's been 5,000 years that we are here. Shouldn't we be comfortable by now? Do we even know another place? What are you asking? Why are we here? And people don't ask the question academically, out of curiosity. They need an answer. It's an urgent question, an emotional question. Why are we here? Or what is the purpose of life? So I can understand asking that for the first 1,000 years. But after that, either give it up because you're not finding an answer, or get comfortable. This is our place. This is where we are. We're here. What's wrong with being here? Why do we have to have an answer? But hold on to that question for a second. Why is it that if you fall down a flight of stairs, you get seriously injured and you end up in a hospital? But that's only if you fall down that flight of stairs when you're sober. If you fall down that same flight of stairs when you're drunk, you just get up and continue going. And then the next day, you don't know where you got that bruise. Why is that? Let me ask you a serious question. What is death? What does this mean? Something is alive and then it dies. That doesn't make any sense. Dead things can't live. Then why can living things die? Doesn't make sense. So fine, we've gotten used to it, but we don't have an explanation. Why should a living thing be able to die, but a dead thing can't live? if they're mutually exclusive, then life shouldn't die. In fact, it's an oxymoron. What do you mean life died? Life lives, life doesn't die. So the question, is there life after death? It's a ridiculous question. After death, there's death. Why would there be life after death? But also, why would there be death after life? If you're alive, then you live. Let me ask you a psychological question. What is depression? I'm talking about emotional depression, not chemical or clinical. Emotional, you wake up and you just can't get out of bed. What is that? You go to the doctor, he examines you, does all sorts of tests and tells you you're fine. And you say, yeah, but I'm not. He says, yes, you're fine, everything's good. You say, but I can't function, I can't do anything. You say, it's just in your head. That's not good news. The worst place to have a depression is in your head. So what do you mean, just in my head? If it was in my foot, I wouldn't mind so much. But to have a depression in the head, that's not good. So what is that? Let me ask you a religious question. In Judaism, humility is of the highest values. To be humble is a great thing. Nothing greater than humility. In fact, in all things, we should be moderate. Not to an extreme, either way. Not too much, not too little. The middle path. But when it comes to humility, we are told to be exceedingly humble, not moderately humble. But what is the value of being humble? What's good about putting yourself down, thinking you're worthless, thinking that you're insignificant? Why is that good? Shouldn't we have a high self-image? Don't we need to have self-respect? And particularly on Yom Kippur. On Yom Kippur, we go on and on and on in the prayers about how human beings are meaningless, human beings are here today, gone tomorrow, it's like a puff of smoke, it's like a cloud, it's like a dream, it's nothing. I'm nothing before I was born, I'm nothing now, I'll be nothing when I die, I'm nothing, forgive me. What do you deserve forgiveness? Argue that you're good for something. So what is this virtue of humility? Let me ask you the most painful question. What is it with teenagers? You remember being a teenager. Was it so impossible? Yes. I understand there's confusion, there's a little awkwardness, there's a little adjustments that have to be made, but why are all teenagers angry? What are they angry about? They live in your house for free. You give them everything they ask, sooner or later. And they're angry? What are they angry about? And it's universal, no matter where you go. In Buenos Aires, they say it in Spanish, but they're all angry. Let me ask you another question. What does it mean, I love you very much, but I don't like you? Happens, no? What does that mean? If a person is good enough to love, then what's not to like? If you can't even like them, how did you end up loving them? How does this happen? Sometimes it's even worse. I love you, but I hate you. It's a love-hate relationship. What does that mean? me ask you a question. One of the 10 commandments is to honor your parents. Honor your father and mother. Now, why does that have to be one of the 10 commandments? Kosher is not one of the 10 commandments. Mikvah is not one of the 10 commandments. Yom Kippur is not one of the 10 commandments. Rosh Hashanah is not. Matzah is not. Even Hamantashen. Not one of the 10 commandments. But honor your father and mother is one of the 10 commandments. Now, if there's ever a mitzvah that you don't need to engrave in stone, because there's no chance you might forget, is honor your parents, because they will always remind you. So why does that one have to be written in stone as one of the 10 commandments? But there's a commandment just before that, the 4th commandment, that tells us to observe Shabbos. Now, you know what it takes to observe Shabbos? You're not allowed to do any labor. Sounds nice, no? A day off. But when you find out what the definition of labor is, it's a little surprising. So if you want to carry your king-size mattress up and down the stairs in your house all day long until you fall from exhaustion, knock yourself out. You're allowed to do that. But turn on the air conditioning? No. That's labor. In other words, the thing you're not allowed to do on Shabbos is only constructive things, productive things. But carrying a mattress up and down the stairs for no reason at all, yeah, you can do that. That's not labor. Which means that one day out of 7, you can't do anything useful. What kind of plan is that? Final question. We have a custom that when we make a toast or we take a drink, we say l'chaim, to life. To life, to life. It's a little prayer. To life. We don't want to die. Is taking a drink that dangerous? All of a sudden you're praying for life? We do some really dangerous things and we don't say l'chaim. I mean, getting on a plane, should say l'chaim. Going on a cruise ship, you should say l'chaim. Bungee jumping, 2 l'chaims. We don't. But when we take a drink, l'chaim, I don't want to die. What is that? To make the question even more interesting, there's a non-Jewish custom that when you make a toast, you clang your glasses against each other. It's not a Jewish custom. And it started way back when if you came to somebody's house and they offered you a strong drink, you never drank it because it was poisoned. So you would exchange drinks. You would say, no, you drink this, I'll drink what you're having, and then they would exchange drinks to prove that it's safe. It's a non-Jewish custom. Jews never had that custom because Jews who needed to kill another Jew would find some other way to do it. No one is going to ruin a good schnapps just to kill somebody. So our drinks were always safe. And yet we say l'chaim. Why is that? All right, one more question. A simple question. Why did God create the world? I saved the easy ones for last. Why did God create the world? God is perfect, God is infinite, God is everything, God is almighty, God is all-knowing. What does he need this for? Why would he create the world? A man says to a woman, "Please marry me. Please marry me. I can't live without you." Should she marry him or should she run away? He says, "I can't live without you." Now, either he's telling the truth or he's lying. If he's lying, why would you want to marry him? If he's telling the truth, why would you want to marry him? The man needs serious therapy. He can't live without you? Get help. You know you can't trust men because they never do what they say. They promise, but they never do it. Like this guy who said to his girlfriend, "If you ever leave me, I will kill myself." So she left him and found out that you can't trust men. They promises. You can't. So if a man says, "I can't live without you," he needs help. But what would happen if a man says, "Please marry me, I can live without you"? Now, where's the romance in that? He gets an A for honesty, but he's not getting married. So what's a man to say? What a man should say is this: "Please marry me." I know for many of you it's a little too late, but a man should say, "Please marry me. I can exist without you." But what kind of a life would that be? He'll get married. And this is the answer to all the questions. When God created the world out of nothing, he had to produce, he had to invent, he had to create existence. Nothing existed. He had to make things exist. What does it mean that something exists? What does it mean this is? It means it occupies space. To exist means to occupy space. That's the scientific definition. Everything in this universe exists because it takes up space. If it doesn't take up space, it doesn't exist. Even a thought in your head takes up space. That's why when you're thinking, your mind is occupied. An emotion takes up space. Your heart is full. Of course, it's emotional space, which means when you have an emotion, another emotion cannot come into that same space. When you have a thought in your head, you can't have another thought in that same space. You have a book on the shelf, you can't put another book in that place. The book occupies its space. So everything shares the same existence. Water, fire, stones, thoughts, feelings, everything exists by this definition. It occupies space. Another thing about existence is that it has many conditions. To exist, you have many conditions. A person has enough to eat, enough to drink, had a good night's sleep, has a secure home, a roof over his head, has friends, a support system. He has everything. And what does that result in? An existence. In order to exist, you have to eat, you have to drink, you need a house, you need clothing, you need security, you need friends, you need... And when you have all of that, you exist, which means you continue to take up space. then God gave all existing things a life. The life of fire is not the same as the life of water, although they exist the same way. Life means the effect you have on your surrounding, the contribution you make to the rest of the world. That's life. The contribution of fire, it gives warmth, light, makes things come apart. The life of water, it makes things grow, keeps things cool, and makes things stick together. That's its life. The life of a stone, it gives stability. A house made out of stone is stronger than a house made out of straw, as we all know from non-kosher sources. A human being exists and has a life. Only the human being is conscious of his life. It's not automatic and instinctive, it's conscious. Now, sometimes there's a conflict between my existence and my life. Because some things are better for my existence, not so good for my life. Some things are good for my life, not so good for my existence. For example, the fact that you're all here in this room. If I was here alone, I would have the whole room to myself. And my existence would be rather large. This would be my space. But you come into the room and you destroy it. You ruin my existence. Because, you know, how much existence can you have if you're sharing the space with 100 people? So I hate you. It's not nice what you're doing to my existence. On the other hand, I'm really glad you're here, because speaking to an empty room is not a life. So the fact that you're here, my life is better. But the fact that you're here, my existence is ruined. And we're not even married. Can you imagine what marriage is? In the vows under the chuppah, we need to be a little more specific. We need to spell it out. When a man marries a woman, or a woman marries a man, it should be very clear. It should be explicitly stated. You are my chosen one. Of all the people in the world, of all the possibilities in the world, I choose you to be the one person who will ruin my existence. I don't want anybody else ever to ruin my existence. Because what happens, people get married, and 2 weeks later, the guy is complaining, I feel a little cramped. I need room. I'm suffocating. So, you see, I should have spelled it out. The vows have to be more specific. Actually, there's a comedian who says, I never understood why at a wedding the bride wears a bridal gown. Nobody else at the wedding is dressed like the bride. But the groom is wearing a tuxedo like every other guy. They rent it all in the same place. Why is that? Yes, I figured it out by listening to the vows. Did you hear the vows that they make? Do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? This man. They don't mention the name. Because if she says no, say, okay, fine. He's dressed. Come. Do you take this man? No? Come on, there's got to be somebody you like. See, you got to be more specific. So sometimes existing and living are in conflict. What should I do when they're in conflict? Should I sacrifice my existence or should I sacrifice life? Oh, what kind of question is that? Of course you sacrifice existence. Why? Who needs it? You take up space? That's it? You're going to fight over that? If your spouse needs more space, give it away. Humility in Jewish thinking is never deprecation of life. We never entertain the thought that life is meaningless. God forbid. A moment of life is infinitely precious. The humility is humble your existence. You're proud that you take up space? What is that? You have a right to take up space and then demand all sorts of resources just so that you can continue taking up space? Humble it. Don't do that. It deserves to be humbled. It doesn't have any value. So if you think every song is about you, your existence is out of control. You've spread yourself way too far, and you have to occupy every thought. Every song has to be about you. Rein it in. Too much. In fact, that's what depression is. You see, existing is a little bit depressing by its very nature. It's depressing and it's embarrassing. So, what have you been doing lately? Taking up space. I do it very well. Nobody takes up space like I do. It's embarrassing. Like a lump on the log. And by the way, let's spell it out. What does it mean, I take up space? It means you can't come into my space. Get out of my seat. I was here first. This town ain't big enough for the two of us. You know who said that? Cain said that to Abel. There were two human beings in the whole world, and they said, no. It's either me or you. One of us got to go. It's embarrassing. And it's a little depressing because it's so burdensome. Just to exist. You got to eat, you got to sleep. And if you don't eat the right foods, and if you don't drink the right things, and if you don't sleep on your left side, on your right side with your head elevated on a sleep mattress, on an air mattress. Oh God, this is so burdensome. So depression means if you add weight to your existence by worrying about it, by fighting over it, by making it important, you're making it heavier. And at some point, your existence becomes so heavy that you can't carry it anymore. And your very existence crushes you like a ton of bricks, and you can't make a phone call, and you can't get out of bed. And your existence is way too heavy. The solution is live. Put energy into living, not into existing. It's a seesaw. It's an amazing thing. When you put energy into living, you don't need to put so much energy into existing. When you put energy into your existence, you have no energy for life. And that's why it's often very helpful when a person is depressed to simply say to them, stop kvetching. Find somebody who has real problems and help them. And that is so curing. It's good. So in that seesaw, we should always sacrifice the existence in favor of the life. In simple words, existing means I have needs. Life means, do you have any needs? Can I be helpful to you? Existing means my needs. Life means who needs me? What am I needed for? What effect, what contribution can I make outside of myself? It's amazing that during a plague, when everybody's getting sick, the doctor doesn't get sick. He forgets to eat. He doesn't need to eat. He doesn't sleep. He goes around the clock. He doesn't even need to sit down. And he thinks he's Superman. The reason he doesn't get sick and the reason he doesn't need to rest is because his life, his contribution, what is needed of him and who needs him is so clear and so real and so urgent that he is so fully alive that his existence pretty much takes care of itself. But when the plague is over, he's in trouble. When you're alive, your existence is not that heavy. The previous Rebbe said, what does love feel like? All the poets have been trying forever to describe love. The Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Rebbe, said, love is like this. You're walking down the street, burdened with your problems. Heavy, heavy. You're dragging your feet because you got so many problems and they're so heavy. And then, without expecting, you meet somebody you love. Your burdens are not so heavy. Your burdens lighten up. It's fine. Because you met somebody you love. Life is buoyant. It carries you. Existence is dead weight. You have to carry it. And it gets heavy. So the solution is choose life. This is the secret to our survival. The other nations that made a vast noise, what did they want? What were they trying to accomplish? They wanted to guarantee their own existence, that the sun should never set on their empire. So they built these fortified cities, they created these huge armies, they amassed great wealth to guarantee their continued existence, and they're gone. Don't exist at all. I was in Rome trying to get to the airport, and if you've been there, you know the pedestrians don't let cars move. So the taxi is sitting there stuck, not in traffic, but in pedestrians. So I said to the taxi driver, I said, you know, these Romans are going to make me miss my flight. He says, these are not Romans. There are no Romans. The only people who are still here from those days are the Jews. It's so true. The Romans are gone. There are no Romans. Why? Because they tried so hard to exist that they killed themselves. We had a different history. Remember in the Torah it says that just before the Jews entered the Promised Land, Moshe gave them a pep talk. Remember the pep talk? He said, let me tell you what lies ahead. You're going to come into the land, you're going to get comfortable, and you're going to get thrown out. You're going to be scattered to the four corners of the earth. You'll be diminished to a fraction of your number. You will be unwelcome guests in other people's countries. They will pursue you. They will kill you. They will torture you. You're going to be starving. You're going to be confused. You won't know what tomorrow brings. And the people said, is there a point to this? What are you telling us? And Moshe said, forget about existence. Live. Focus on, be busy living, because an existence you're not going to have. Don't even think about it. So that's what our history has been. We barely exist, but we are so alive. In the times when our existence was literally down to the final hair, thread, we produced the greatest saints, the greatest tzaddikim, the greatest scholars, the greatest books, the greatest social structures, charitable organizations. We were so alive, and we barely existed. Even today, we barely exist. Ask any member in the United Nations, have you ever heard of a Jewish state in the Middle East? Never heard of it. It's not on the map. Doesn't exist. What do they talk about every day at the United Nations? How much trouble the Jews are causing. How Israel is messing everything up. For a nation that doesn't exist, we're pretty loud. But that's been our history. So you see, if you don't put a lot of energy into your existence, but you're busy living, the existence somehow just takes care of itself. This is why people have been asking for 5,000 years, why are we here? See, every human being with a little bit of sensitivity is embarrassed by their own existence. I mean, this is it. I take up space. That's it. There's got to be more to it than that. There must be. I take up space, then I make demands. Give me food, give me this, give me that. I need, I deserve, I have to have. And then what? And then I can take up space. Now, God, this is embarrassing. So every decent human being asks, why are we here? Which in different words is, why do I exist? And we ask that question because existing doesn't justify itself. It doesn't add up to anything. Like the bumper sticker, life stinks and then you die. But the mistake is, don't confuse existence with life. The bumper sticker should say, existence stinks. Life never stinks. And that's where we get really confused when instead of asking, why are we here, we ask, what is the purpose of life? Oh, you're confused. The question is, what is the purpose of existence? The answer is life. Life is the answer, not the question. Don't get confused. So what does it mean, I love you but I don't like you? Oh, it's so obvious. I love you because you're giving me a life. I don't like you because you've ruined my existence. So how do we resolve that? Very simple. Ruin my existence. Go right ahead. I'll be busy living. It's a Jewish thing. I'll be busy living. What is death? Life does not die. That's an oxymoron. It's like salt can't go bad. Or like the comedian says, how does sour cream go bad? Life can't die. Life lives. That's what it is. Life is alive. Dead is dead. Death means a person had a life and an existence, and the existence ended. Doesn't take up space anymore. Does not need to eat. Doesn't need to drink. So what's left? Life. Life continues. It doesn't know what else to do. It only has one talent. Life knows how to live. That's it. So when a person's existence is over, his life is relieved. Now I don't have to share my energy. Now I don't have to go on this seesaw of should I put my energy in my existence? Should I try living? Now it's pure life. The only problem is that life is not here. Because to be here, you have to take up space. So where is this life? In the world of life. This earth, the physical plane, is the world of existence. To be here, you have to exist and take up space. Oy, this is what's wrong with teenagers. If you ask any teenager anywhere in the world, what are you angry about? And they'll tell you. They all say exactly the same words in every language in the world. My mother ruined my whole life. It's ruined. My whole life. But that's ridiculous. First of all, life can't be ruined. Thank you. Life can't be ruined. Life only comes in one flavor, and that's delicious. Existence can be ruined. I mean, people have terrible existences, very sad, very painful. And some people have a very comfortable existence. But life only comes in one flavor. You can't ruin life. Life means whatever is going on and whatever your existence might be, you have an opportunity to make a difference, to make a contribution, to do something. How can you ruin that? The second reason that mothers don't ruin teenagers' lives is because teenagers don't have a life. Teenagers have an existence, and it's not even theirs. Like this teenage girl who says, I can't believe it, my mother went into my room. Your room? What, are you paying rent? It's not your room. It's a room your mother lets you sleep in. My mother went through my things. Your things? Nothing there belongs to you. See, but they get confused. Instead of saying, my mother ruined my whole life, they should be saying, my mother ruined my whole existence. And that's true. Mothers ruin your existence. Not maliciously, they can't help it. When an important guy who owns the whole town or the whole island, it's all his space. He is the king, he is the ruler, he is top honcho, and he's sitting at the most important meeting conducting the whole world. His existence is enormous. And his mother walks in. I know. Where does my existence come from? You carried me for 9 months, and I know, you're right. I owe you my existence. Mothers ruin your existence. You see, this is why you have to honor your mother. Honoring parents, literally, the mitzvah, one of the 10 commandments, how do you fulfill that mitzvah? By adoring them? By sending them a card on Mother's Day? You fulfill the mitzvah of honoring parents by doing menial tasks for them so that they don't have to do it. You carry their bags. You bring the food to the table. You ease their burden and make their existence easier by giving up a little of your existence. So in the Ten Commandments, God says, honor your father and mother, and you will live. When you give up a little of your existence for somebody else's existence, now you're starting to have a life. Now you're alive. When you take a dollar bill that's good for your existence, and you give it to someone who needs it more to help with their existence, what do you have? Life. Now you're alive. Shabbos. God tells us 6 days of the week you should work, but on the seventh day do no labor, which means basically, for 6 days of the week, do whatever you need to do to make your existence easier. If it's broken, fix it. If it's raw, cook it. If it's cold, heat it up. If it's hot, cool it down. Make your existence easier. But 1 day out of the week, 1 day out of the week, stop. Leave your existence alone. It is what it is. It's fine. If you take it too seriously, if you go around the year always working and worrying about your existence, you're going to get depressed. So 1 day out of the week, focus on life by leaving your existence alone. Whatever you bought before Shabbos, that's what you have. You didn't buy it, you don't have it. Whatever got cooked, that's what you have. You didn't cook it, so fine. Your existence is fine. It really is. Even when it's minimal. Even when Jews lived in a ghetto, when Jews lived in poverty, but Shabbos, I got no problems. I'm content with my existence, it's fine. We focus on life. Why did God create the world? In the very simple way of putting it, God's perfection, when we say God is perfect, He's infinite, we're talking about His existence. He always was and He always will be, and He occupies all the space. It's all His. But like the husband, He came to us at Mount Sinai and said, I can exist without you. I'm really good at it. I have an infinite existence. I existed infinitely before you. I'll exist infinitely after you. My existence is great. But without you, what's the point? Existence without a life? The existence itself demands a purpose, a content. And the more perfect you are, the more you need a life to justify all that perfection. In some way, affluent people, successful people, are more likely to get depressed than people in third world countries. Because when your existence is fine, then it hits you like, what for? So what? Now what? And if you don't ask it, your children will ask it. Okay, fine, so? There's a black comedian who says, you white people, you got too much food. You have so much food, you're becoming allergic to it. He says, in the ghetto, ain't nobody lactose intolerant. And now you're trying to tell us that red meat will kill us? Oh no. Red meat we eat. Green meat kills us. People who are still trying to improve their existence don't get depressed. People whose existence is already fine Now they have to face the question. And so? That's what a midlife crisis is. You're going along, doing fine, you're halfway there, and going to crisis. What is that all about? When you get halfway there, it means that pretty much your existence is going to be what it is. If you hadn't made your first million by now, you're not going to make a million. So your existence kind of stops being a challenge. And then you have to figure out, what's my life? Now I got to get a life. This is why we say l'chaim. You know what happens when we drink? I mean, you may have read about it. When people drink and get drunk, their existence relaxes. They say your inhibitions relax. Oh, I hope not. Your existence relaxes. And this is factual, this is true, because how do you know if somebody is drunk if they're still standing up? You know, because when he wants to talk to you sober, he stands over here. In America. In South America, it's different. South America, they stand here. But when they get drunk, they stand here. And you back away, and they follow you. Now you know he's drunk, because he doesn't take up space. He's lost his sense of space. You go to buy a sofa, and the salesperson says to you, here's a nice sofa, this will seat 4 people comfortably. It's not enough information. It will seat 4 sober people comfortably. It'll also seat 9 drunk people comfortably, because drunk people don't take up space. Isn't that a fact? Would it be cute to see 9 drunk guys on a sofa sober up at the same moment? Drunk people don't take up space because it relaxes your existence. That's why you never drink when you're in a bad mood. If you're not excited about life, don't drink. That's the worst thing you can do. Because if you're not excited about life, all you have is your existence. You don't want to relax it, because then you're left with nothing. On Purim, we assume you're in a good mood. Then you can have a few drinks. At a wedding, if you're enjoying it, then you can have a few drinks. When you're excited about life, then you want your existence to leave you alone so that you can celebrate life fully. So you say l'chaim, meaning not I don't want to die. You're saying to life rather than existence. So I am going to drink this because I'm excited about life. L'chaim. Now we'll understand the most powerful words in a very simple, well-known song, but we never appreciated how meaningful it is. If you want to be happy, don't look for gimmicks. Life is happy. Existence is not. You want happiness? Live. You don't have to do anything to make yourself happy. Live. Life is happy. Existence, even if it's really good, is somewhat depressing. The Jews have lived this secret for all of our history. So if you want to describe the Jewish nation in one word and get right to the heart of what makes us really unique, You know the song. Am Yisrael. If you want to describe Am Yisrael, you want to say, what is the Jewish people? It's one tiny word. L'chaim. We choose life. And because we choose life over existence, we will exist forever, because we don't care. We don't care about our existence. We're busy living, and life cannot die. Make sense? L'chaim.
We are now moving forward to the questions and answers section, and you're of course are welcome to ask any questions related to the topic of happiness, as well any Jewish topics about Jewish faith or any Jewish topics, with the exception of American politics.
Rabbi, why does Hashem make it so hard for people to be happy?
Why?
Why do people find it so hard to be happy?
When I came to Minnesota, I live in Minnesota for the last 40-some years. I don't remember how it happened, but early on, I got invited to speak at the Lutheran seminary, where they train Lutheran ministers. And then from there, I got invited to speak at the Baptist seminary, where they train Baptists. And it's really been very, very good. They're very respectful. They really want to learn. They really want to know. It's amazing. The world has changed. They're not out to convert us. They really want to know. So it's all really very nice. One time, the minister, the teacher of the class, after I finished speaking about what Judaism is, he said, so why do you suffer so much? Now, Jews, when we get together, we love to talk about how we suffer. It's our favorite topic. How was your week? Not good. You call that not good? I ran my car into a tree. How far up the tree? My week was much worse than that. And we love it. We love, kvetching is such a Jewish pastime. But for some reason, when this minister asked, why do you suffer? It didn't feel good. Like, what was he suggesting? What was he hinting at? I didn't like it. So I said, we suffer? What gives you that impression? He says, oh, come on, throughout all of history, you've always suffered. I said, oh, you mean throughout history we've always been there? See, the Romans didn't suffer. They just died quietly. We've been around for a long time. I mean, in 4,000 years, you get a lot of headaches. So it's not that we suffer more, we just live longer. And besides, how many holidays do you have on your calendar? 2? And one of them celebrates his death. Have you seen our calendar? I think we're having much more fun. We have holidays at the drop of a hat. It's not really hard to be happy. We just can't think of a good reason to give up kvetching. To really be happy means you'll never kvetch again. We can't wrap our minds around that. Never kvetch again? What kind of life is that? So the truth is that being unhappy makes us happy. The reason we're having a hard time being happy is because we take things too literally. You didn't get the job you applied for? Oh, then life must be bad. You must be bad. God must hate you. He's out to get you. He's picking on you. We take things too literally. Existence comes and goes. It's up, it's down, it's good, it's bad, it's hard, it's easy. We take it too seriously. We have to take life seriously. So when a kid starts getting upset because his toy broke, don't promise him a new toy. You have such a fantastic opportunity now to tell him the difference between existence and living. Use it. We tell children so little about life, and we make them so good at existing. In a secular society, what can we teach children about life? Nothing. We teach them about existing. How to cross the street, how to ride a bike, how to brush your teeth, how to avoid strangers, how to get good grades in school so that you get into a good college, so that you get a good job, so that you have bling. It's all existence. What do we ever tell children about life? So when a child is hysterical about a paper cut, it's such a good opportunity. There's existing, there's living. We take our existence so seriously that it drains our life away. I'm not saying you should tell a child it's no big deal, get over it. But explain it. There are concerns about existence, there are concerns about life. Which one is more important? Yeah.
I have a question here from one of the congregants. We understand that giving up existence is the secret, for happiness. But why did God make it so hard? There's such a long list of diseases, illnesses, sufferings, and persecutions, and hunger. Why would God, create a world in which you always have to struggle forgetting your existence to be happy?
There are problems in the world. This is an unholy world. This is an unfixed world, and our job is to fix it. When there are problems, when there are difficulties, when there are obstacles, it's not meant to discourage us or to dishearten us. It's simply, that's the job. This is a world that needs fixing, and we can fix it. So we're never surprised that the world has another problem we didn't know about. This is a world that is in disrepair, and we are here to fix it. So again, the difference between existing and living, are you part of the natural disaster, or are you the solution to that disaster? When something terrible happens to our existence, it should inspire us to dig deeper into life and come up with a solution to even this problem. Let me just give you a quick example. When I came to Minnesota, there was already a Chabad rabbi there, and he invited me to come help him in his work. The synagogue, the one synagogue that existed in St. Paul, was falling apart. It was fading. There were no young people. And there was just barely a minion of elderly folk who have been devoted to the synagogue for all their lives and so on. We have a custom that one Shabbos out of 4, the Shabbos before the new month, we recite the entire Psalms, the whole book of Psalms, in the morning on Shabbos. Now, it's nice to do this with a minyan, so the two of us were sitting thinking, who could we invite to join us to to say the entire Tehillim, the entire Psalms. There were two brothers there from Poland, delightful human beings, just full of life, full of enthusiasm. They would walk to the hospital every Shabbos to see if there are any Jewish patients that they can. And it's Minnesota. It's about a 3-mile walk, but it's Minnesota. And they would go every Shabbos through the thickest snows, the coldest temperatures. So we figured these two guys, let's ask them. I went over to one of the brothers, Yidel. I said, Yidel, would you join us 1 week out of 4 to say the entire Tehillim on Shabbos? He says, only 1 week out of 4? I said, yeah, only 1 week. He says, why? Why only 1 week? My brother and I, we say the entire Psalms every Shabbos. I must have looked surprised because he explained. He said, we were in Auschwitz together when the camp was liberated. We were there for 3 years. The Russians came in and liberated the camp. And they told us that we're free to go home. They had no idea what they were saying. We were standing at the open gates of the concentration camp, and we had no place to go. There was no home. Our shtetl was gone, families gone. We were terrified. We wanted to stay in the concentration camp because we didn't know anything else. So we were standing there completely lost when this Polish woman came towards us with a basket of bread and handed us a fresh loaf of bread. And we promised each other that for this kindness that God had shown us, we would say the entire Psalms every Shabbos. And that's what we've done ever since. It's awesome. It's mind-boggling. They're standing at the gates of a concentration camp, and they can't get over God's kindness. What does it take to do that? What does it take to be so enthusiastic about life that if life includes a miserable existence, life is still wonderful? Our grandparents were amazing people. The day after the Holocaust, they said, hey, let's get married, have children, raise families. This is amazing. Elie Wiesel confesses that he actually told the Rebbe, the first time he met the Rebbe, he said, I cannot bring children into such a world. And the Rebbe said, you have to get married. And he said, I can't. I cannot bring children into such a dark, miserable world. And in his book, he thanks the Rebbe for pushing him, getting him to get married and to have children. But look at all the Jews who instinctively, naturally, effortlessly said, okay, that's over. Let's have a family. That is so amazing. They're such heroes. And we have to be careful because we're raising children who can't survive a paper cut. You didn't get me the new iPhone? Life stinks. You ruined my whole life. Whoa, a little too brittle. A little too flimsy. Where is our hold on life? So I stop a guy in the street in New York. I said, would you like to put on tefillin? He says, I don't need that. I said, good, so let's put them on. He says, I don't need that. I said, I know. That's why you should put them on. Because if you needed it, it would just be more of your existence. All need is, first of all, if you need tefillin, you're weird. Of course you don't need it. It's a mitzvah. You know what mitzvah means? Mitzvah means you don't need this. That's what it means. Mitzvah means somebody has a need. Are you available? No, you don't need it. A hungry man asks you for a sandwich and you say, I'm sorry, I don't need this. And this is not about you. So when you give a hungry man food, you're doing something you don't need. You're responding to someone else's need. That's a mitzvah. When God says, please, put on tefillin, He needs it. Are you available? Or are you busy with what you need? That's the question, life versus existence. We have to get better at doing things we don't need. That makes us bigger people. That gets us in touch with life so that we can fix the things that are wrong in our existence. But let's not confuse them. Life is never bad. Life is never hard. Existence can be really difficult, and it needs fixing. If we become victims of it, then we're not the fixers anymore. We've become part of the problem. Remember Terry Schiavo? Remember that horrible story? The woman in Florida? Her husband wanted to starve her to death. You remember this? Her ex-husband. She was breathing on her own, but she was pretty much a vegetable. So he said, stop feeding her. Let her die. And if you remember what the argument was her life has lost its quality. There's no quality of life. That is so morally wrong. They did stop feeding her, and they murdered her. They starved her to death, and there was no excuse. Because her life had not lost its meaning, its quality. Her existence had lost its quality. She didn't have a space of her own. She couldn't eat, she couldn't drink. You had to feed her through a tube. But her life was the effect she was having on the people around her. It was a powerful effect. She had the whole country talking about a moral issue. In fact, who was the governor of Florida then? Nobody knows. But everybody remembers Terry Schiavo. She was not alive. So are you allowed to end someone's life because their existence is bad? That's a dangerous idea, because if that were true, we'd be gone a long time ago. Even the famous American hero, Patrick Henry. Give me liberty or give me death. Are you out of your mind? Can you imagine if Jews had that attitude? When's the last time we had liberty? That is not Jewish thinking. Liberty, schmiberty, be gesund. You know what I mean? If I am alive with liberty, without liberty, don't scare me. Life is great. Liberty just curtails my existence. So when problems happen, it's not something happening against our lives. It's a new challenge. There are layers of unholiness and of pain in this world, and every new layer is a new challenge. Fix it. Rise to the occasion. Elevate life above the ugliness of existence. That's Jewish. Tell you one more story. You have time? Nobody's in a hurry? come to the Baptist seminary, and the teacher there, every year, assures me that he prepared the students. And these are not little kids. This is the graduating class. Next year, they're going to be ministers. He says, I've prepared them. They're prepared. I said, what do you mean by that? He says, they know not to witness to you. In other words, they won't try to convert you. I said, it's okay. Don't worry about it. He's very concerned. No, I told them, I prepared them. They won't witness to you. I said, okay, relax. It's all right. So they have this little talk, and then they read The Chosen. Have you read The Chosen? They read The Chosen, which is the Jewish book of the century, and now they're ready to discuss Judaism. And it's always been really, they're very respectful, they're very nice, and they really want to know. One day, I come to the class. I'm standing like this speaking, and it's like the auditorium style with the slanted whatever. Sitting right there in front of me is this woman with that look. She doesn't blink. She's staring at me with this intensity. And I thought, oh, she missed that class when he prepared them. As soon as I finish speaking, her hand goes up. And I thought, oh, this is trouble. So I make believe I don't see her. And I'm looking all around the room and nobody raises their hand. And she's down at the bottom. Everybody sees her. So eventually I have to call on her. She says, what do you think of Christians? And my first thought was, oh, so this is how pogroms started. So I try to lighten it up. I say, you want my honest answer or my polite answer? Your honest answer. That's when I thought, it's been a good life. Nobody lives forever. No, I mean, this is a beautiful campus. It's 10 square blocks. And I'm the only Jew there. So I said, okay, if you want my honest answer, when I hear the word Christian, it scares me. Because you haven't always been good to Jews. Thank God somebody else raised their hand, and we went on to other questions, and there was no pogrom. Class was over. I'm standing in one side of the room milling with the students, talking to some students. And the teacher, the minister, comes over to me and says, you got a moment? Kathy wants to say something to you. We go to the other side of the room. All of the 50 students, they all surround me now. And Kathy is sitting at one of the desks, crying, sobbing hysterically. And the minister says, go ahead, Kathy, tell him. She can't talk. So he says again, Kathy, come on, tell him. She pulls herself together and she says, I want to apologize for all the horrible things we've done in the name of God. Your answer was way too generous. Now, the amazing thing about this is that the teacher knew that that's what she wanted to say, and he pushed her to say it in front of the class because they all felt the same way. Something is changing. They want to hear from a Jew. The long white beard doesn't hurt either. But it's amazing. We had this session where 30 of the graduated students who had been first-year ministers come back to St. Paul, to Minnesota, for the annual whatever, 4-day retreat. And they asked that one afternoon of the 4 days should be a visit to the Chabad house. They came. The room was full of Jewish women. We have a program for Jewish women. But they were sitting in the middle, and the Jewish women were sitting around. I was already used to the questions. I could predict what they were going to say. They ask a few questions about Judaism, which is why they're there, and then they start asking questions about Christianity. Just checking to see if what they believe is true. Because if a rabbi says it's not, then it's not. So they come in. First question, how do you know which labors are forbidden on Shabbos? It doesn't specify, it just says don't do labor. Good question. You did your homework. Answer the question. Next question. What is the relationship between Rabbi Akiva and Lag BaOmer? So, whoa, you really did your homework. Okay. Third question. Do you believe in heaven and hell? Aha. It's starting. I said, of course we believe in heaven and hell. When the soul leaves the body, it goes back to where it came from, the world of souls. If it comes back and feels like a soul and just picks up where it left off and is just a soul among souls, that's heaven. But if it comes back looking a little like a body, smelling a little like a body, because it's been in a body for 80, 90 years, it's embarrassing. That's hell. The soul burns. How does a soul burn? With shame. The soul is embarrassed because it doesn't smell like a soul. That lingering smell can only last maximum 12 months. That's why we say Kaddish for 11 months, just in case they need the maximum. But we're not going to do 12 months because that's really insulting to suggest that they needed the entire 12 months. So we say it for 11 months. But to believe that you can be in hell forever, that's not allowed. That's idolatry. Because if hell goes on forever, it means evil goes on forever. You're not allowed to believe that. Now the Jewish women sitting around the room gasped. You can't say that to Christians. None of them had any objection. In fact, you could hear a sigh of relief. Yeah. Never liked that idea anyway. Next question. Do you believe in Satan? Of course. Satan's an angel. Unfortunately, he gets to do all the dirty work. But he's an angel. He doesn't have an agenda of its own. If you think that Satan is at war with God, this is Greek mythology. You're not allowed to believe that. That's idolatry. The women gasped. They had no objections. Do you believe in God incarnate? That means God in a body. I said, well, in the end of days, the separation and the distance between the Creator and His creation will be removed, and God will be incarnate in everybody. Not what they were taught. They had no problem. Next question. Do you believe in the Messiah? I said, yes. He's a descendant of King David, inherits the royal whatever, the royal family in Judaism is the line of King David. He will be the king, and he will fix the world, and he will do it. But believing in him is not Doesn't accomplish anything. The sooner we all get back to keeping all the commandments, when Jews keep all the commandments, the sooner he will come. Not what they were taught. No objections. In fact, one guy raises his hand and he says, "Is there anything we can do to help?" There was one woman sitting at the edge of her chair. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. And when he said that, she leaned forward a little more, and the chair tipped. You ever see anybody fall out of their chair? She fell out of her chair. Couldn't believe this. Now, I had never heard that either. That one was a shocker. They believe that they know who Moshiach is, and he already came, and he's coming again, and he's from here, and his mother, and his father, mother. And a rabbi says, no. Moshiach will come when all Jews go back to keeping the commandments. And this minister says, anything we can do to help? The world is changing. Anyway, so I said to him, when you meet a Jew, encourage him to practice Judaism so that Mashiach will come sooner. He said, we can do that. They don't make Christians the way they used to. But the funniest part of the story is one of the women comes over to me and she says, I gotta tell you something. I only stopped here in Minnesota. I'm from Brooklyn. She says, I'm from Brooklyn. I stopped here for a couple of days, but really, I'm on my way to Utah because I'm converting. I'm becoming a Mormon. I said, you're from Brooklyn and you're becoming a Mormon? Do you know anything about Mormons? She says, no. Have you ever met a Mormon? No. Then where are you going? What are you doing? I have to. I eventually found out that when she was a teenager, she fell in love with Donny Osmond. So she had to be a Mormon. So she was on her way to Utah to become a Mormon. And after this thing, she comes over to me and she says, I'm not going to Utah. She says, what's the point? I'll go there, they'll bring me here for an afternoon. Might as well stay here. Now this is, getting off the topic of happiness for a moment. We have an ancient responsibility to be a light to the nations. We've not been able to fulfill that responsibility because they weren't listening. A couple of years ago, if you suggested to Christians what's right, what's wrong, what's true, what's not, you were risking your life. The times, they are a-changing. They really want to know, and they want to hear it from a Jew. So they're going to come knocking on your door, not to bring you good news, not to witness to you. They're going to knock on your door because you're Jewish. You know what God really wants. Teach me. And if you say, I don't know, they won't believe you. Of course you know. You're Jewish. That's what's happening in the world today. So let's get ready. They're not going to believe you if you say, I don't know. You have to know. We are the last hope. It's exciting. Anything else?
One more question.
I thought I asked all the questions already.
I have a simple question. How do you bring any community that is based on just gathering all the existence? How can you bring them alive? they're going to listen to you because existence is much more important for them?
Mm. For a long time, we really believed that existence is the most important thing, but just by the very nature of it, people are disappointed and they're not happy pursuing their existence. They're looking for something more. So it's not an uphill struggle. People really want to hear something about life because existence has basically disappointed. We're disappointed. We have a pretty good existence. It's not doing it for us. So we think, well, make it better. Yeah, we know already that no matter how good it gets, it doesn't answer any question. So the world is really ready. We're not fighting an uphill battle. We're not going against the grain. People are desperate to know something meaningful because we have a good existence, and so what? It's not an exaggeration to say that we are living in messianic times. Messianic times means when the world is ready to become normal. We're ready. I get a phone call from a Muslim. He was born on the West Bank. He is a genuine Palestinian. He's at the University of Minnesota. He wants to meet with me. My Israeli friend said, don't go. I said, no, I'm going to go. It's okay, we're coming with you. He wants to convert to Judaism. I said, oh, come on. That's a rather cheap trick. No, he was serious. He was at the university for 3 years studying the Quran. And he decided he doesn't like it. He wants to convert. I said, are you the only one who feels this way, or are there a lot of Muslims disillusioned with Islam? He said, how would I know? I can't trust anybody. If I told my sister, she would have me killed. That's what I hate about this. I said, you know, if you convert, you're taking your life in your hands. You don't need to do that. You don't need to convert. You need to know what God really said. Did God really say kill every infidel? So if you want to know what God really said, go to the Jewish bookstore, get a Torah with English translation, and read it. You'll find out what God really said. You don't have to risk your life. So that's what he did. The world wants to hear from Jews. Because Jews know. Don't we? It's an exciting time, really. That's it?